The Great Demon Lord and the Children of Olympus by Sea of Mountains. Chapter 12. This had gotten sorted out quite well after Chiron had arrived. Most of the demigods had stuffed their faces prior to the arrival of the Tempestians at the dining pavilion. It did take a while, but Chiron managed to finish his rather lengthy explanation of how the magic system on Earth works. Milam, Xian, Diablo and Ranga listened quite avidly when Chiron had gotten onto the topic of the different monsters that the half-bloods fought. So dumping a part of their food into the fire is like a sacrifice to their respective godly parents. Rimuru thought while sipping a cup of tea as he watched the rest of the Tempestians conversed with the demigods and got more familiar with each other. Rimuru made sure to keep an eye out to prevent any of his more loose-lipped friends from spilling any important information on Tempest and the Cardinal world in general. Surprisingly, even Ramirez and Veldora had forgotten about the tension from earlier and began returning to their normal happy-go-lucky selves. Rimuru still couldn't be quite sure though. Better safe than sorry when it came to those two, so he kept a closer eye on them. Turning away from where Ramirez and Veldora were boasting about their power, Rimuru now watched as Will and Chiron conversed along with Annabeth, by their side, simply nodding. He was currently in what the demigods called the Big House, something like a conference room with a relaxed aura, Rimuru had concluded. Along with Annabeth and Will, there were several other campers listening in on the conversation. They seemed to be a bit older than most of the other campers, leaders maybe? Unfortunately, the tomboy who had argued with Diablo was also there, Clarice if Rimuru caught her name right. She spent most of the time trying to stare Rimuru down with a not-so-inconspicuous scowl on her face. Most of the other half-bloods ignored her. So these kinds of people are everywhere, even in different worlds. Guess anger issues can't easily be changed. Rimuru thought with a smirk inside, careful to not let Clarice see. Suddenly, the shadow under Chiron stretched out and a boy stepped out. Rimuru almost spat out his tea in surprise. Sure, he felt a presence approaching, but he certainly did not expect something like shadow step to be used. The boy gave off a vibe that was somewhat like venom. His eye bags could also rival that of the demons. Seal, what was that just now? The children of the gods here can inherit a certain portion of their parents' power. That power is usually an indication of who their godly parent is. That's interesting. So do you know, also, was that some kind of a skill or an ability? It seems that it leans more towards something between an intrinsic skill and an ability. They are born with these powers as a part of them. As for the first question, after analyzing the residual magicules around the boy, I found that it is similar to the aura that the ground here emits. So, do you have a list of the names? Rimuru honestly did not expect Seal to be so knowledgeable about another world on their first visit. Well, second actually, but it wasn't like they cared to notice the first time. Yes, of course. They are mentioned a lot at this camp. That boy is the son of a god named Hades, the god of death. A Shinigami? No, his power is not limited to simply collecting souls and killing people. In fact, he does not kill, he watches over the killed in the underworld. The place that emits magicules similar to the boy's aura. Interesting. Rimuru zoned back into the conversation of the demigods and Chiron. Hello Nico. Will said with his usual glowing smile. Also, use the door next time. Welcome back, no promises okay. The boy, Nico, said. Anyway, what was the other world like? Will put on a thoughtful look. Honestly, it is kind of hard to explain. There were lots of surprises, sure, but I think it would be better if you go ask the ruler of a country there yourself. Will said as he nonchalantly looked over his shoulder and shot a smirk at Rimuru. Rimuru almost choked on his tea, not that it would harm him, and looked up, his face slightly twitching. Now where in the world did you come up with that? Rimuru said as he leaned forward, elbows propped on his knees. So my guesses were right. Annabeth suddenly said in a volume louder than her normal one, that letter, you wrote it no. You also signed it as, the ruler of the Rimuru Tempest Federation, right? The daughter of Athena suddenly had lights sparkling around her. Rimuru could only smile, dumbfounded. I guess there is no choice now. But do not leak any of what I am going to say next anywhere. I will know, Rimuru warned as he stood up. Dionysus could barely contain his curiosity when he heard that the little girl standing in front of him was some kind of ruler. Well, Rimuru didn't stay as a little girl for long. Everyone's eyes went wide. Standing before them was one of the most beautiful people they had ever seen, if not, then Rimuru was the most beautiful. He just simply radiated all sorts of elegance. Even in a simple white shirt tucked into a pair of chino shorts, that had grown with him, in the eyes of the demigods, Rimuru was a goddess in every way possible. Well, he practically was a god, but they didn't need to know that. I wasn't intending on showing this form to any of you, but you all seem trustworthy, right? Rimuru gave a small grin. I also trust that you won't go running off and telling your friends, right? Mr. D. Mr. Dionysus, right? Rimuru stared at the corner that Dionysus leaned again, his can of cola treacherously close to spilling. There was not a single hint of coercion in Rimuru's words, but his voice and the way he carried himself naturally made the others want to give him their full respect. Clarissa's gaping could literally bore a hole into a wall when she saw Rimuru's transformation. Rimuru could only stand there staring for another couple of moments before he got embarrassed and changed back, much to the disappointment of a few people present. And that is the reason why I use this form. It is much easier to talk to people, though I don't quite have a choice for formal occasions. Rimuru made a small side glance as if he was annoyed at something. Whoa, Rimuru, you never showed us that form either, Travis gasped. The others only looked at him incredulously, as he had certainly not been there a couple of moments ago with his brother. Ah, it's not like this many people would believe a delicate-looking girl would be a ruler of a nation. Rimuru sighed while emphasizing on the word girl, which was only noticed by a few of the people present. One of them being Will, who had enough surprises already that he just couldn't bother. The others, however, could only remain speechless before trying with their best efforts to stay silent. Ahem, Annabeth made a throat-clearing sound to bring everyone's attention back to her, bringing us back on topic. As it is clear that you are the ruler of this Tempest nation, you must know what happened with the circle, right? I am glad that most of our demigods are back now. Did you just say, most? Rimuru interrupted her with a rhetorical question. Ah yes, Annabeth nodded. One demigod disappeared and never came back. His name was Percy. He is one of our most powerful comrades, a son of the god of the oceans, Poseidon. Rimuru sighed heavily. It seems like my friends have yet caused even more trouble for you guys. We will help you find him. Knock, knock. Sorry I am late. What was it that you called me for? A voice of a girl came from the door. It seems like Ms. Dare is here now. Chiron made his way towards the door and welcomed a red-haired girl in. Rimuru, please meet the Oracle of Delphi, or rather, her host, Rachel Elizabeth Dare. Hi. So you are one of the people that came out of that strange circle. Rachel stuck out her hand. Nice to meet you. Please call me Rachel. Hello, I am Rimuru Tempest. Nice to meet you. Rimuru shook her hand. We were just talking about where this demigod named Percy is. Yes, wasn't there the clue of a demigod with one shoe? Rachel suggested. We were about to set off to look for him, but the arrival of Tempest here has delayed some of our plans, Chiron answered. Which is why we will help, as it was partially our fault, Rimuru began. Boom. A loud resonated within the whole camp, saving the unfortunate demigods who were moments away from a great mistake and embarrassment. Please do not rush, Rimuru started as everyone leapt out of their seats at the sound. I promise that no one is even injured, and I will repair anything that has been broken as payment. Chiron could only peer at the strange kid no person as they followed Rimuru to the arena where the explosion came from. Wahahahah. There were 3 people standing smack dab in the center of the arena, unhurt but with steam coming off their surroundings. Rimuru made eye contact with the culprits and deadpanned faster than any reaction from the 3. As for the cabin leaders and Chiron, however, they could only stare in shock at the scene that was laid out in front of them. A little while earlier, after Rimuru had left for the big house. Lord Rimuru did say we could explore this camp of sorts, but what is there to find? Diablo asked no one in particular, as the Tempestians stood directly in the middle of some circle of cabins. Curious onlookers started to gather from both inside and outside of the 20 or so cabins. Lord Diablo, I think Lord Rimuru meant for us to converse with the residents, demigods I think, Venom bowed ever so slightly as he suggested his opinion. Hey, why don't we see how powerful these kids are? Milam suggested as she jumped up and down continuously. Lord Rimuru would like us to not injure anyone, I am sure, Shuna rebutted, nor would he like any harm done to the property. Then do any of you have an idea of how to interact with the other worlders? Xian gave a thoughtful look. Not an expression one would see on Xian often. How about a spar or whatever those are called? Milam suggested, dead set on fighting the half-bloods. One of you guys have full potions on hand, right? Rimuru is also nearby so no one will die, no. Hey, why is everyone gathering here? Travis butted in, oblivious to the horde of demigods peeking from the sidelines. The Stoll brothers jogged up to the Tempestians, unconcerned with the stares of their fellow demigods. Hello. We are just deciding on what we should do. Wow. These cabins are so cool. Milam's short attention span got the best of her as she finally noticed the appearances of the cabins. Without a second to spare, she grabbed the wrists of Ramirez and Veldora and promptly trotted off to the Ares cabin, attracted to the various pointy and sharp things around said cabin. Actually, I think a couple of spars isn't a bad idea. Connor mused, still within earshot of the demigods that were gathered. Venom, as the genuinely concerned individual of their group, started fretting about the consequences of a spar but did not find the opportunity to speak up as the Tempestians were dragged into the direction of the arena. Milam, we are going to have a spar. Hurry up if you want to join. Travis yelled as he herded some of the willing demigods towards their destination. Yay! Milam perked up from her poking of the Ares cabin's fence, grabbed Veldora and Ramirez and followed Travis. Once the horde of both campers and Tempestians arrived at the battle arena, Connor and Travis confidently walked to the center. Whoever wants to try sparring with our friends here can come up. It's a chance for everyone to show off their power, Connor announced, the last part just so casually aimed towards Veldora and Ramirez. Wahahaha. Veldora, you can show off your Veldora-style killing arts here, you know. Milam stage whispered. Veldora, clearly conflicted, fidgeted a bit before Travis gave him the last push. Wow, the name of your fighting style sounds really cool. Why not show it off? The demigod encouraged Veldora as everyone else glued their eyes onto everything that was happening, excited to see how people of a different world fought. Veldora scrunched his eyebrows, deep in thought before finally coming up with an answer. All right? I shall show these dear otherworlders the strength of my power. Oh dear, Lord Rimuru is not going to like this at all, Diablo mused as Shuna also ended upon the same train of thought and silently put up an enhancement spell for the arena. Ooh, I'll go after Veldora, Shin shouted as she raised her hand, now hyped up as well after Travis and Connor encouragement for Veldora. Ha ha ha, they will be amazed by my power for sure. Veldora declared, all previous expressions of disappointment disappearing. Please step to the side, I will now show me, Veldora-style killing arts. With every kick, step and punch that Veldora threw, the demigods' eyes grew even more avid. No one noticed Travis and Connor rushed off to somewhere but they returned just in time for Veldora's grand finale. Boom! Milam and Ramirez immediately rushed towards Veldora, hidden in a veil of smoke. Wahaha, that was cool but I can do better. Milam declared. HMPH. If you thought that was good then tremble before my power. Ramirez boasted, confidence returning. When the smoke cleared all three were met with Rimuru, paperfan in hand. Now, what did I say about not destroying property? Rimuru ominously cracked said paper fan. If it weren't for Shuna's quick thinking then this whole place would be crumbling to dust right now. Your hand too, I put effort in making these homunculus so that your magic and less could be retained but here you are with a broken arm. I will have to decide your punishment later but for now I need to discuss some serious matters. Without skipping a beat, a frozen Veldora was put into an imaginary space by Rimuru which successfully served as a warning for Ramirez and Milam who slid back behind Shuna and Xian. Diablo, you must have heard what was discussed. Go and search for this Percy. As a demigod of this Poseidon who seems to be one of the most powerful, he would also have a greater concentration of magicules compared to the other demigods here. Ignore the mention of the demigod with one shoe. Rimuru sent a message to Diablo who immediately replied with a nod then ran off to the side to teleport and begin his search. Sorry, please excuse my friend here. It seems that we only cause even more trouble haha. Rimuru apologized. I have already sent one of my friends to help. Of course, thank you, Chiron replied. Is there anyone else willing to help search for Percy? As soon as Chiron's words left his mouth, Annabeth and a few other demigods stepped out of the crowd. I would like to volunteer, she announced. Chiron nodded as if he had expected it as a chorus of other demigods stated their willingness too. Very well then, go and prepare immediately. With a wave of the centaur's hand, all the demigods set in motion, some going to help while others prepared themselves. Of course, we can't leave these guys alone either. Rimuru walked up to Chiron. I'll have one of my friends follow each group. Thank you, I really appreciate your decision to help as well. Chiron nodded towards Rimuru. It's not a problem. Rimuru returned a smile. A couple of moments later and the Pegasi-drawn chariots set off into the sky, leaving a few demigods alone to watch their friend shrink into the horizon. Meanwhile, Rimuru was now left with Veldora, Milam and Ramirez. Their fates now laid on the words that were about to be spoken next.